Hi, this is Jeffrey Kurt Financial Group. Today is Tuesday, September 2, 2025. First, let's start. 80 years ago was the official end to World War II. Japanese signed the treaty and the war was officially over. It's 80 years ago today. Also, as we start a new month, I'll take a look back at some of the numbers from August. And there's a lot of stuff going on across both financial markets and news headlines that I think could be impactful. So we'll get to that in a second. But looking at last week, the markets were down a little bit. The Russell, though, was up, but the NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow were down. For the month of August, we have all the markets up. Dow up 3.2%. S&P and NASDAQ up 1% and 1.5%. The real winner was the Russell 2000, the small caps. That was up almost 7%. For year to date, then the Dow's up 7%, S&P's up around 10%, 11% NASDAQ, and the Russell now up a little over 6%. All of that gain really coming last month in September. And this week, as a look ahead, there's job numbers on Friday and some earnings. Salesforce, Lululemon, American Eagle, and Broadcom are reporting earnings this week. Next, I want to point out on the bond market, there's some real trouble going on in some of the bond markets. The Japanese yield on a 30-year government bond is well above 3%. This is the highest rate since the 1990s. The UK market, London, their yield on their 30-year bond is in the mid fives. Again, highest since the mid 90s. And so these things are causing problems with these interest rates moving up. And some of the financial institutions, life insurance companies, and banks, and some of the institutions that hold these bonds are taking some big losses right now. They have losses on the books. Now, whether they sold them or not, I don't know. But so it's really causing problems in both, again, Europe, UK, and Japan as interest rates rise, and it's causing a problem. As we look forward to the month, we've had a really good stretch here, as we've talked about a lot of times. And what's that mean? Now, the markets are down this morning here on Tuesday to start the week and start the month. And there are some big things we need to think about what's going on. Friday afternoon, the judge in the court system ruled against the tariffs. Now that's going to go to the Supreme Court, and the tariffs are in place, I think, until October 14th. That may change, but there'll be an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court on the tariffs. Secondly, I think this Federal Reserve has multi-front battles going on. One is over the interest rates. Do they cut? With inflation maybe going back up, job market maybe not so, a little bit tight. Do they really want to lower rates? That's a battle going on. Also, a battle with the Cook, who is being, accused of some wrongdoings on some mortgages, and that whole battle is, it also triggers to really, is the Fed, the issue was raised, is the Fed constitutional? So, the Federal Reserve is at the center of several battles, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in September. Also, you've got Congress coming back, and the fiscal year ends. There needs to be some bills passed for the spending and like that. And who knows? The Congress, they can't get anything done, so it may not get done. And maybe there'll be a closure of the government at the end of September, or a continuing resolution, which I think is a very controversial step forward at this point. You have geopolitical stuff. Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East. You've got China. And so there's just a lot of things going on that way. And I think, again, this is all within the context of a very complacent market. And I think there's a lot of risk that people have been just too, optimistic. And if if the market starts going down a little bit, and some of these other issues, the bond market, inflation, interest rates and like that, don't, have the same path that's expected, the stock market could be at risk. So there's a lot to go over here. So we'll end it there. As an update, I'm going to do a video tomorrow on retirement planning. Just some discussions. I'm going to try to do some educational stuff. It's a broad topic. I'm going to try to keep it brief and just give you some things to think about. And then on Friday, some big news. I'll be doing a video in the morning, but I've been invited to be part of the group that rings the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange on Friday afternoon. So we'll run down and do that too. So thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with the educational video, and then on Friday for the regular market update. Thank you again. Goodbye.